Test, can you hear us now?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, I can hear you, Claudia.
Hi. Who is this?
This is Steve.
Oh, okay, but we
Another
can't
one
hear
of the
them.
participants.
I just called in instead of using my computer audio to see if that would work, and I still can't hear anything.
Okay, so good. It's not just me.
No.
I was just gonna email Angela, but I don't want to bother her. I'm sure she's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, someone just texted me, so I think they're working on it.
Yeah, I texted Angela that there was no audio.
Okay.
I hear you guys.
We'll talk to each other.
We'll have our own meeting.
Okay.
You're all approved.
Can we go home?
I already am.
I know. Me too.
Okay, they can hear us, but we just can't hear them. I hear something. Yep, I hear that.
We got it.
We got it? Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
They can hear us now?
Yeah.
Yes.
We could hear you all along. All right, so
Okay.
let's continue the meeting.
First thing we have to do is approve our minutes from our last meeting. Yeah, we did a roll call. We did.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
I'm not sure Bransky got called, but
Yeah. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes from our meeting of January 13th?
no.
No? Member Bransky?
Okay.
There we go. Now you can hear me.
I
Page
wanna know,
3.
please.
Page 3?
Yep. First entry for me. Said Member Bransky stated he looked at the plan. Looks like there's no outdoor pens or boarding areas. That's correct. And asked if the location would not be set up for long-term boarding. I think that should read, asked if the location would be set up, because their answer was that it would not. And Chairman Zerziga actually asked that same question a little bit later down, and that would agree with the way it's written when he asked it.
Okay.
So I think if you just strike the word not, but the problem is their response isn't in here.
Okay.
And they said that they would not have any long-term boarding, which
So
was repeated later.
okay, we'll put their response on.
That's all I had.
Can we turn up his volume somehow?
Yeah, I'll try to increase my mic volume.
That's better.
Okay, so there was one change?
Yeah.
All right, I will entertain a motion then to approve the minutes.
So moved as amended.
I'll second it.
Okay. O'Brien. And Alfonso. Roll call, please.
Member Alfonso?
Yes.
Member Bransky?
Yes.
Member Cap?
Yes.
Chairman Zerzaga?
Yes.
Member O'Brien?
Yes.
All right, our first case is case number 2204, site plan for special use permit height variance.
Is it 2203?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're doing 2203 first.
Yes,
Okay,
that's for the,
my mistake. Special use permit for parking deck, site plan approval, and a variance from section 5.3, 5.2 of maximum building height. In this request, since there are only 5 of us at the meeting tonight, in order for approval, each case will need approval of 4 members. So I have to give you the option if you want to continue, or if you want to postpone your case till our next meeting. Okay. Okay, so this is special use. The applicant is Greg Berman and Crosstop Town Design. This meeting was published in the January 24th edition of the Daily Southtown. Property owners located within 250 feet of the property have been notified. And we have architectural site plan dated January 21st, 2022. Landscape plan dated 1/26/2022, plus an updated version that we just received on 2/9/2022. And exterior elevations dated 1/28, prepared by Linden Group.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah, which one are we doing?
We're doing the craft brewery first,
Oh, are we?
Okay.
since that's the first one on our,
No. I'm confused.
well, that's the first one on our list,
2203.
17400 Halston. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2203 is garage.
the first case would be the Wind Creek Casino garages.
All right. That's what I started out with. All right, so this would be Wind Creek LLC. Would be the first case number 2203, correct?
Yes,
That was also a legal notice published in the Daily Southtown on January 24th. Letter sent to occupants within 250 feet. Application for site plan approval and a special use permit plat of survey dated 2/8/19. Project description, location, site plan, and elevation concept prepared by Daily Group LLC dated 1/19/2022. Landscape plan exhibit dated by 1/19/2022 as schematic diagram design, schematic design, section B, C, dated 2/19/2020. This is for the property located at 174th and Halsted. So do we have a petition in the audience for that one? Okay, could you come up to the podium, please? Anybody that's going to talk, we'll do it all at the same time.
Will anyone on Zoom be talking?
Claudia and possibly Richard, yeah.
Okay, so we'll swear everyone in at once.
All right, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Patrick Daly, the Daly Group, 2803 Butterfield Road, Oak Brook, Illinois.
All right, you, sir?
Vern Molman with Solomon Cordo Benz, 625 North Michigan, Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. And do you both swear that the testimony you're going to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. So who would like to start with their introduction?
I don't have them on here. Did you send them?
Not part of this package.
Yeah, I mean, I can pull up the package. It's not on this computer, but I can try and find it. I'll have to find it because I didn't know you used it. So, on there.
Would you like me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you could share your screen, that would be great.
Would
if
that
you have
work?
it up, because I
Okay,
didn't
yeah,
have them.
I can do that.
Okay, let
Sure.
me allow sharing. That would be a lot easier. Thank you.
No problem.
Oops. Does that say all? All right, you should be able to share now.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
So what we're presenting tonight is a proposal for 2 parking garages on the Homewood side of the property for the Wind Creek Casino proposal. And what we see here in the site plan are 2 garages. The one on the top, which is the west side of the site, is essentially the same footprint as the original proposal, which was approved some time ago. And what we're proposing right now is adding a second, or kind of a twin garage to the east of it that is essentially matching in footprint. Both garages contain about 600 spaces within the footprint of those garages. The one on the west, the one at the top of the drawing, is 3 above grade parking levels and 1 below. The one on the east side is 4 levels above grade. And that is the site that is requesting the 51-foot height variance. On the site plan, really everything else is largely unchanged. The main entrances from Halsted Street are remaining where they are. Between the 2 garages is still a major connector that connects through the entire site. And the access point along 175th is also shown as it was before. Next page. Here we see some enlarged plans of the garages. On the left is the below grade garage level for the west garage. The drawings on the right side are the ground floor plans showing the passage road between them and the parking along the east and the north side of the east garage, which faces Halsted Street. Next page. Again, sort of a repeat of the levels. These are the upper levels of the garage, the second and third floors. Next page. Here we see the elevations of the proposed facilities. The elevation on the bottom here, which is the west elevation, this is the elevation that faces the neighborhood across the service drive to the west side of the site. This is largely unchanged compared to where it was before. This is a side of the building that is completely enclosed to protect the neighborhood from light intrusion from the cars and from the lighting inside the garage itself. Then the top elevation is the depiction of the east elevation of the 4-story facility. Next page. And these are the elevations, the north and the south elevations of the two garages side by side, showing the passage road in between. You see as we go around the different elevations that every facade is treated the same high level quality materials. We're proposing 3 colors of precast concrete in a nice, smooth architectural finish. And that would be continuing around all the 4 elevations of each of the 2 buildings.
Those elevations are reversed. The one on the top left should go with the bottom right.
Okay.
And vice versa.
All right, thank you. Next page. Then finally, these are further elevations of the long sides of the garages that face the internal drive with depictions for signage and so on above the major entrances. Next page, and maybe the last page. Yeah, then here we have some engineering information that Claudia with Cage can speak to.
Yeah, so from a site perspective, from an engineering perspective, nothing's really changed. All we've done is essentially replace surface parking with the parking garage. All of the entrances and exits, like Fern mentioned, are remaining the same that they were previously shown. And then Robert, if you wanted to talk about the landscape.
So on the landscape, we followed the Homewoods landscape ordinance and guidelines. And what we just did, we updated this plan alongside Halsted to try to correlate with the Halsted corridor plan. What we've done is, instead of just spacing out trees at the 40-foot on center that was required, we took the same number and we clustered them so that we could group them a little bit better and make it a little bit denser landscape. And so what we're proposing is potentially putting the village monument sign near that. You see a little symbol where it shows that where we could have some outcroppings and some landscaping over there. And then again, clustering plant materials and ornamental trees as it goes down in front of the parking garage. So otherwise, I think it's pretty much the same. These are sections through the site where on the west side of the site, it shows different sections, how we are creating berms and evergreens and fencing. The fence goes on top of a 3-foot berm. So we have a 3-foot berm with 6-foot high fence on top, and evergreens in front of that, blocking the residences from the parking structure. So different sections where we maintain that. Further down, we have a little bit more room where we have a dry bed detention area. And then we continue to keep that line of trees, the evergreen tree stays out that same line. And we're planting quite a variety of different kinds of trees. We want to avoid a monoculture, so we have quite a selection. And the selections that we use, we reference the recommended trees from the Morton Arboretum's list of trees that work the best.
And I believe that's it.
That's all. Thank you.
You have anything else for us, sir? No. Okay. I've got a question before you get to the board and ask them questions. Originally, you came in with one garage. Now you're proposing 2 garages. Why the change to a second garage instead of surface parking? Yeah, please.
We had a,
You can
Take it down.
so we can understand you.
thank you, sorry. Even with it off, you may not understand me. When we began, we had the second parking garage in East Hazel Crest on the north face of the casino building. Wind Creek, my client, was not aware of the Illinois gaming law from the standpoint of security entries and turnstiles onto the gaming floor. So if we were to have a customer park in the north garage, all along the corridor getting to the hotel to check in or any of the restaurants, there'd have to be security checkpoints at each location going into the gaming facility. And that's to protect minors from getting into a gaming facility. The second item too is the fact that they've identified that they think this is going to be a little bit more successful than originally thought. Our traffic engineering anticipated this level of cars on site, so we know it doesn't have changed that impact whatsoever. And then also the fact that we believe secured and tempered parking in this climate are going to be a lot more attractive to our clientele.
Okay.
So that's essentially the rationale.
Okay. All right, well, I'm sure we're going to have several more questions for you. Maureen, would you like to start with any questions or comments?
I was just gonna ask what you just asked, about the reasoning for, for coming back for another garage. So I'm just gonna defer right now.
Okay. Member Cap.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we're glad to see you here. There's been a lot of hype about this, about quoting some of the articles that might have appeared in the media, how you're looking to ensure, or your client is, that the benefits associated with this project are felt by the entire region. Does that sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
We're all anxious to move this along as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
However, our concern here tonight is my concern, certainly, for what I have to say. I'm concerned that for however great the benefits will be to the 2 villages, both East Hazel Crest and Homewood, and however this filters to the rest of the Southland, I'm concerned that there are some potentially deleterious impacts that may be exclusively borne by the 2 adjacent residential communities, one in Homewood neighborhoods and one in East Hazel Crest. And are you familiar with our zoning ordinance?
I believe so.
Okay, have you or somebody in your organization taken time to familiarize yourself with things that might be of concern to us?
I did 4 years ago, so.
Okay, so just to help you out, you're pretty good at, your plan is certainly good at demonstrating that you're trying to mitigate impacts. So, for instance, your traffic study before and projected after conditions. Your lighting plan, of course, you have to provide the photometrics that show you're not spilling off unwanted light past the site. I will mention one comment. I thought your service drive was going to be perfectly aligned with the driveway to the south, and it seems to be a little offset. Could you
Yeah, we
address
made a
that?
commitment to the village that we would align it with Walmart.
Yeah.
And so we're in communication with the owners, Panera and Chick-fil-A, to accommodate that. And then we have Louis Abuna, our traffic engineer, submitted to both villages for review.
Right.
The proposed traffic signal and realignment.
Okay, but what I saw in one of the drawings in our packet seemed that.
Well, that may have been incorrect, I apologize.
Okay. Well, but to come back to it, one of the, and that's why I was asking how familiar you are with our zoning ordinance. You know, I don't want to cite chapter and verse, but there is a section that pertains to environmental standards. And there is not in great detail, it's very succinct about ensuring that visual and noise impacts are not felt beyond the property. And our noise ordinance or our noise standards actually are repeated in our municipal code, and they make reference to the Illinois, what used to be the Environmental Protection Act, but the state, when they compiled the statutes, changed stuff around. But the long and the short of it is that noise that could interfere with the enjoyment of life on adjacent properties is to be prohibited. And so the implication is that people have to take steps to mitigate that. So I could ask you what your mitigation plans are. My concern to talk about this, I don't know, have you done a noise study at all?
No, we have not.
Okay, do you intend to do something like this?
If you request one, we'll do it.
Okay.
If I may, we took a special care from the standpoint of our western facade. So all along the residential area, we have no driveways, no entrance to the parking garage. We have essentially a solid wall on the parking
But
garage.
I actually want to address that. No, that's okay. I don't mean to.
Even to the point that at the extreme north, we have enclosed truck docks. So we have no exposed truck docks. So all along the entire, essentially, frontage of where we bump up against residential, it's literally a solid wall.
Okay, but my point is, this is a 24/7 operation.
And that's why we did it.
Okay, and personally, I don't frequent casinos, so I'm not attuned to what the rhythm of their daily operations are. But you're acknowledging that this west north-south road is a service road. So presumably that would be where deliveries are made, refuse collection, bus, employee access perhaps. But my point is that service drive will probably have as much traffic on it as any part of this site. 20 continuous, no less, and possibly at odd hours. I can't account for when deliveries may occur and when the refuse might be collected. It strikes me, in the absence of a noise study, that and I know your intentions are good here, the solid facade, the solid western facade of the western garage would actually do as much harm in reflecting back the noise from that traffic onto the residential area. So my question to you is, really, how do you look to mitigate the noise that will be generated along this service road and reflected back by the solid walls of the buildings onto the residential areas? Now, I'm speaking for the, certainly we're here in the village of Homewood, but surely our concerns here with noise would be applicable to our neighbors in East Hazel Crest. You know, whatever standards they may have or impose, you know, is really up to them. But I'm just curious. To be honest, I'm actually rather skeptical that a 3-foot-high berm and a 6-foot-high fence will be anywhere as effective as it needs to be to mitigate noise. And I want to throw out an example here. About a mile west of this particular site along 175th Street, we have the headquarters of Homewood Disposal Corporation, and a nice office building, rather tall. It also has, of course, an employee parking lot, compressed natural gas dispensing station, and surface parking for most of its refuse fleet. So I think you can imagine how potentially noisy this might be at 6 in the morning. When everything fires up. And I am here to tell you that as a condition of the approval of that, the Homewood Disposal built a 10-foot high earthen berm along their southern property line to buffer both the visual and noise impacts from their parking lot, especially the trucks. And I'm here to say, certainly from that personal experience, but professional experience, that a much taller earthen berm would be effective at mitigating the noise that's likely to occur. So my question to you is how, in the absence of a noise study, you know, you could probably say to me, I'm just speculating, which is probably true, but, you know, I think we've both been around the block in situations like this with noise generation to know that a 3-foot-high berm seems kind of puny in terms of trying to buffer both visually and from a noise standpoint the impact of a service road from a residential neighborhood.
2 items. We would certainly identify to restrict any kind of truck traffic or service traffic after certain hours. If that would be a request, we're happy to do that. From the standpoint of the berm and the fence, that's 9 foot, essentially, of opaque surface. And then Richard, if you could correct me if I'm misspeaking, but again, the intent was to do a solid line of fast-growing coniferous trees. So in addition to a 9-foot barrier behind it, I believe, Richard, again, I want to make sure I don't misspeak, I believe the planting of the trees will be started 8 feet. Can you confirm that, Richard?
Sure, that's correct.
Oh, okay. So as a result, we thought we had addressed that. With the exception of, I don't believe there's late night deliveries, but we're happy to restrict that.
Well, I understand, but, you know, beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. And the way the state statutes read our municipal code and this standard to which I'm referring, it talks about certain acts or conditions are deemed prohibitive nuisances, such as the emission of sound beyond a property's boundary, so that any noise unreasonably can interfere with the enjoyment of life. That's how the statute, our ordinance, and the standard reads. And I mean, I applaud your efforts at saying that, oh yeah, we could restrict traffic to certain hours, but the point is, of course, it's of concern in the dark overnight when people are trying to rest, but that still doesn't relieve anybody from the responsibility of, let's say, controlling the sound during the rest of the day. And I'm just personally skeptical that a 3-foot high berm and fence would do the job in the absence of a noise study. So, any other thoughts on trying to mitigate this?
That's all I have, I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't have any further questions or comments at this time.
Okay. What about increasing the berm to, say, 10 feet and a fence on top of that? I mean, with a 3-foot berm and 6-foot fence, you're really not even covering the first floor of the garage. Because that ceiling height on that is probably 10 or 11 feet.
Our intent was to make sure that the 3 residences opposite the fence, they're single-story buildings. And so the intent was to make sure the visual is blocked.
Okay.
And where we now currently, I think, have 20 feet perhaps.
Yeah.
We would have to, triple that to 60 or 65 feet.
The dimension of the site, on that side of the site, would not allow a 10-foot berm.
Well, what about a 10 or a 12-foot sound wall? Our neighbor East Hazelcrest, their northern border, effectively along almost their entire northern border is a
Correct.
sound wall along the tollway. So landscape the western edge of a sound wall for us, taller sound wall, 12 feet, not just 10.
We're happy to do that if you request it. This is already approved. We're here to ask for the second garage, but if you'd like that accommodation, then we'll certainly consider it.
Well, as I said, the preliminary approval that we may have given a year or so ago, we weren't really dwelling on the details like this. We weren't making the deep dive into some of our environmental standards. Again, I applaud your effort to present an entirely solid facade of the western building, but I fear that, ironically, it may do more harm than good because it presents a hard surface against which any noise on that service road from noisy trucks or whatever would be reflected back to the residential neighborhood. That's my concern.
So if we were to do a sound analysis, and the sound analysis requires that we do something differently, then we'll commit to doing that. Is that fair?
I mean, that's a possibility. I'm only one person here.
Okay, and then the other question too is, we've been in contact with the Gardens of Homewood on a regular basis, even to the point that we've sent them the entire presentation tonight for their board to review. Should we ask them what their opinion is if they want to see a 12-foot sound wall opposite their homes?
That's the first time anyone's turned the question back on us.
Yeah.
We're usually, I mean, it makes sense to, I suppose, solicit the opinions of people who are currently residents there. But what if these residents who are agreeable to something like that move on? What about the people who replace them? We here are looking out for the residents of that neighborhood, current and future, in a way that we have in the past applied our view of these standards.
And I know at the last meeting, there was concerns from the residents directly to the west.
Right.
About the size of the building.
Yeah.
And the noise.
and I'm not foolish or silly enough to say that a 10-foot berm or a 12-foot sound wall is going to perfectly block the visuals from a 40-foot high parking garage. I'm certainly not going to suggest that. Or phase two, if we're going to have a 250-foot tall tower, of course it won't. But realistically speaking, down low where the sounds are being generated along that service road, in my experience and certainly opinion, a taller, more effective berm and or solid sound barrier would be far more effective.
Mr. O'Brien, you have
Good
any
evening.
question or comments?
I've got a few.
Okay.
This is a process, and this meeting tonight is part of the process, and you knew that this meeting was coming along. But I get the impression that there's sort of an entrenched opinion, and I notice in our materials, no changes are proposed. That was with regards to a berm with a 6-foot high fence. That's surprising to me, that that kind of a expression or position would be taken, knowing that this body would have questions. My personal residence, I have a berm that tapers from 5 feet to 4 feet, buffering between my house and Kedzie. This is a project, the scope of which is entirely different. And I looked at this and I saw a 3-foot with a 6-foot fence, and I was taken aback. I just could not believe that that was what was going to be proposed for a variety of reasons. Let me get into a few things. I have a number of questions. I understand that the villages have had joint meetings over the last couple of years, and things were discussed. The details of those were not necessarily needed to be given to us, but in going back, as I always do as a personal discipline, to get a feel for where we're at, I just want to do a lightning round with you of a couple of things to bring me up to date. On 174th Street, it does not go through any longer, and it appears that you put a hammerhead in there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. On the stormwater, there was a question by Max Massey regarding an oil separator if the site was to be taken in stormwater. Has that been resolved?
Claudia? Did you hear the question?
No, could you please repeat?
Sorry, could you repeat it?
There was a question by Max Massey regarding an oil separator if the site was to take in stormwater. Matt Schumacher stated he would verify. Nothing has come to this body to close that particular question from the minutes from 2020.
I don't know that answer. I'll have to reach back out to Matt and see if he was able to verify that last year. But I have been in contact with Max and working through the new stormwater design with him.
So that's still an open question, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The grade, is the grade change on the site still 14 feet?
Claudia?
And does the slope of the land still go from southwest to southeast to northwest?
Yes, the grades still follow the same that they did previously.
I'm sorry, did she say 14?
I'm sorry. Claudia, could you repeat it and speak a little bit louder?
Yeah, they still follow the same grading patterns that they did in the original submittal. That has not changed.
I didn't get that.
They have not changed. She said the grades have not changed.
They have not changed.
Okay.
They still follow the same.
The second garage, when did that idea come to fruition? Was that back in 2019?
5 or 6 weeks ago.
Pardon me?
5 or 6 weeks ago.
5 or 6 weeks ago. October 2nd, 2019, page 2. Future proposed hotel will have valet service. The casino will have 2,000 stations, retail and service surrounding, with a potential future garage and hotel on the northwest side. That was an addition to the first garage, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Okay, so this was an idea back in 2019. To have a second garage.
Yes.
It wasn't from 6 weeks ago.
In this location was 6 weeks ago.
I see.
And we
Okay. On the water interconnection, John Schaefer stated that this is a major issue and the Illinois EPA may not allow the interconnection. Has this issue been resolved, and if so, how?
Claudia?
The water design is still in design. We haven't been working on this project from 2019 till now. We just got private utilities out there to try to figure out where all the existing water main are so that we can accurately design the system. So I actually just had a call with him today to talk about that. So no, it's not resolved. We're currently in design.
It's not resolved.
Not resolved.
Okay. The signal light on 175th Street, what is the status? And if warranted, is it tied into the light on Halsted Street?
IDOT has initially rejected the linkage to Halsted Street because of the distance from Halsted Street. As a result, again, KLOA, our traffic engineer, has submitted a proposal to both villages to review their engineers, where it will not be linked to the Halsted Street traffic lights, but will accommodate IDOT requirements with regards to stacking, the left-hand turn movements of Walmart.
You will not be linked to the light on Halsted Street.
That's correct.
So that means it will be an additional expense on the village.
I actually don't know that.
Angela, wasn't there a meeting about that recently? About the traffic light?
Yeah, the new proposal. So IDOT initially rejected linking it to Halsted Street. So the new proposal doesn't link it to the light on Halsted and is going back to IDOT for further review, is my understanding.
So it would be linked to the one on Halsted or would not? They're looking at that.
IDOT will not allow that.
Correct. IDOT will not allow.
Okay, I will come back to that. I don't want to take the time right now to find that.
Member Bransky?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
No.
All right.
Very quiet.
All right, I'll try and speak up. I wanted to coattail off of Mike's questioning about the berm and the fence on the one side. Maybe it's more just pointing something out. I agree, you don't have the real estate there to put a footprint of giant berm going 10, 12 feet. You're going to encroach into the residential area. But that kind of brings up my concern. I was looking in the packet from last year. Where did the cuts come from that Ms. Welp had on the screen earlier, showing the berm, the fence, the trees, etc. I don't have that in your packet, this packet or the previous one. So my question is, how are we going to mitigate rain runoff to the west into the residential area? Are we installing some kind of drain, retention, anything on the backside of the berm we create?
Claudia, did you hear the question?
Yeah, no, we don't currently have detention for the area on the backside, except for the area that was shown that goes into the dry detention pond. That obviously does have the ponding, but no, we don't currently have detention shown for the backside.
If I saw, I mean, you had the cuts up briefly, it would be, you'd have the service drive, you'd have the trees, and then you would have the berm with the fence on top, and then it would slope back down to the west. Is that correct? As you travel from east to west. It'd be trees, berm, fence on top, and then sloping back down to the residence.
Correct. I mean, in our design, we would definitely ensure that we weren't, providing any kind of drainage issue that's going to cause ponding on the adjacent property.
Okay.
That's not something that we would design. We're still in preliminary design right now of the site. Well, a little bit farther than preliminary, but, we don't have final design and final stormwater and final, water design quite yet. We're still working through all of those items.
Just a point to throw into the mix there then.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely make sure we don't provide any issues for the adjacent property.
I'm sure the people living on the west side wouldn't mind a free swimming pool, but not that way. My other question is with the addition of the second parking garage. So we had a parking lot there that would provide cars coming and going from that footprint from multiple directions. Now what we have is all the ingress and egress out of the two parking garages is centralized on that central drive. Are there any concerns? I'm not a traffic engineer, so that's why I'm asking the question. Is there any concern with the ingress and egress of both garages facing each other like that, especially if there was any kind of an emergency situation where we've got a lot of people trying to get out? Has that been looked at?
Forgive me, our
makes
traffic
sense.
engineer reviewed the plans and essentially passed on them. That was not an issue with KLOA.
Okay. Because that footprint where you have that load of cars coming into that east garage, previously as a parking lot, cars could enter in and out of that little footprint from the west side, the east side, the north, and all the roads were running east-west, so you'd have just as many cars potentially coming out the east side onto that east drive, on the east side of the garage, as well as on the west. Now everybody's going in and out on the west side of it, directly adjacent to the west garage. So to me, it just seems like you're going to have some clustering of cars there. Point of concern. But like I said, I'm not a traffic engineer. Let's see. My other question, does the addition of the garage in lieu of the parking lot change? This was a question I brought up last time. The entry and exit going on to 175th Street. I made the point last time that especially local residents who might be visiting the casino or working at the casino are going to know about that entrance and consider it as a back door. And the traffic engineer felt that most of the traffic coming onto the site would be off Halsted. I think there's going to be I still maintain there will be a fair percentage that will be coming in off of 175th. So now we've added to the parking capacity on that south end of the property by basically quadrupling what's on that footprint or tripling what's on that footprint where that second garage is now. How has that changed, if at all, your entry and exit off of 175th. Your thoughts on that, especially with the cross traffic you're going to get as people try to feed into Panera and Chick-fil-A.
The traffic report, excuse me, I apologize, that we generated identified that 10% of our traffic would be eastbound on 175th Street. 70% of our traffic would be southbound on Halsted Street, and 20% of our traffic would be northbound on Halsted Street. Those numbers haven't changed. And I think overall, the original proposal, and again, I may be off, but I believe we've added 300 additional cars of parking from the surface parking to what we're proposing. However, it's the same size as what we had proposed in East Hazel Crest on the north side of the casino. So the traffic report took all that into consideration. We haven't changed anything in that regard.
Yeah, okay. My only point to that would be you had those amount of cars on the north end of the property. Now you got them on the south end concentrated. So it's going to put that load on 175th. Because if I was parking at the north end, I'm not driving all the way through the property to 175th. I'm coming out on Halsted, like you say. But now that everything is south, I think that's going to push more of it out on 175th. I think you guys are in for a surprise. And as a resident, I know what the traffic is over there at 175th. I've been in it all the time. And I think that it's worth another look with your traffic study. I'll just say that. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with the second garage. And I think it's a good adjustment in the plan. So with the noise concern that Mike brought up on that west side, and making sure that we don't create a flooding issue in the neighborhood, and double check your 175th traffic load. And I think with those concerns addressed, I think you're good to go. That's all I have.
Okay.
You want me to continue?
Do you want to continue? Yes, sir, go ahead. Do we have other questions yet? And I'm sure Mike's got some additional questions.
I've got a few more questions.
And probably more emails, so also.
From the September 24th meeting minutes, there's an expression. Who would pay for the light and its connection to the one at Halsted? Mr. Shaw stated that the assumption is that it would be the developer's cost. If the light is warranted, the developer would pay for it. If it is not warranted, the signal would not be connected to the light at Halsted, and the cost would be on the village. Is that still the case?
No.
That is the case.
No, it is not the case.
It's not the case.
No, we're paying for the traffic light.
You're paying for the traffic.
Correct.
Okay. Regarding snow, you've made some major adjustments to the site plans with regards to obviously a second garage and so forth. And so the question comes up, what considerations have been made for the snow plowing, piling, and storage?
I apologize. I don't believe there's any. Claudia, have we addressed that at all?
No, we have not addressed snow removal.
We have not, I'm sorry.
Okay, when could something come back to Angela regarding that?
Claudia, is this something we can do in the next few days?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, moving right along. Parking. I've got 4 questions regarding parking. Do you recall what the original count was when you came before us previously, when you started the project? There was one garage, that garage had 725 capacity, 250 for a floor, 3.5 floors. It didn't work, the numbers didn't work out exactly 250 per floor, obviously, but that's what's stated in the materials. So there were 725 in a garage, but I can't put my finger on an expression of an amount in the lots for a grand total. Do you recall what that is? Or
Rather
was, I should
rather than
say,
recall.
was.
Claudia? Are you
Yeah.
able to look at the original surface parking numbers in addition to the original structured parking number?
If you just give me a minute, let me try to find it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, she's looking for that.
Mhm.
Let me continue on. Since we've made these changes and added a second garage, we have, what is it? 603.
608 in the second.
Thank you, you're right, 608 and 623. That's a grand total of 1,231 in garages. Again, I don't see a figure for all of the lots, for a grand total of parking in its entirety, in garages and on lots. Is that available? And if it's not available tonight, when could it be available to Angela?
I think it's available tonight. Claudia, could you identify the total number of parking, including the 2 parking garages and the remaining surface parking?
Yes,
It's
one moment.
void for the exact number, but it's over
Okay,
19.
while she's looking for that, another question is tour bus parking. This came up in 2020, and I don't know what the status is. Mr. Mylan, at the time, previously had no information on the bus parking. His comment was they had not worked on any bus parking, only ran the turns to show that the buses could maneuver. At any casino, any tours, people are coming in by buses. There has to be provisions to accommodate the buses. There was none at the last meeting. What is there at this meeting?
None.
None. So you're not anticipating tour buses?
No, we are, but we don't have a solution at this meeting. We're looking for property off-site where they can drop off at the Port Cochere and then park the buses while they're waiting to take the customers back to where they came from. But we don't have a positive plan to discuss.
Okay. There was the construction timeline. We're sitting here in February of '22. The construction timeline for the casino was 18 months back in 2020. And the construction for the timeline for the hotel was 12 to 18 months after the casino. Can you give me an estimate of both?
We anticipate we'll break ground hopefully April 1st or thereabouts.
April 1st.
We're prioritizing the casino opening 18 months later.
Okay.
And we anticipate the hotel will be moving parallel or simultaneously with it. We have a podium. Priority is get the casino open and then continue with the superstructure for hotel, which should follow within 12 months.
12 months. Okay. 18 months from April 1st would be October of '24. 12 months after that would be October of '25. Would that be right?
Actually, we're trying, I misspoke. We're trying to get everything open by the end of 2023.
Everything open, hotel
Everything.
and casino.
Correct.
We're still waiting to hear back about some numbers.
I'm sorry?
We're still waiting to hear back about some
Right.
numbers.
And I'm looking at them as well.
I'm trying to keep myself organized.
Right, right.
Going through this in great depth. On the parking spaces, we received material to look at, such as these plans. Okay. And it shows both garages, and it shows the plans that were submitted earlier on the screen. The reason that I'm trying to identify what the original count was and what the total count is today, to ascertain what that increase is and what that means, what that meant, how that came about. The numbers that are expressed as parking spaces on every single one of these is I can't reconcile them. And I'd like someone to reconcile them, and that's the reason I'm asking these questions. Take a very simple one, for example. You're going to have a valet parking. It's going to be a little bit to the north of the original garage, okay? And according to the materials, it indicates 34 spaces. And you look at the drawing, and it shows 9 spaces on the west, 5 on the south, 5 on the north, and 10 on the east. And in the middle are 4. That totals 33. Okay, that seems like a simple difference of only 1, and not a big deal with all of the parking spaces. However, when you begin then to go through every single floor of every single parking garage and all of the other lots, and there are differences. Let me take one other small number. On the very south extreme, there's a number of 50. Okay, on the south side of the first original garage, you have 2 sections of 8 each. Across from that, you have 17. And then you have 9. But that totals 42, doesn't total 50, which is the amount that is identified on the drawing. And in going through each one of these, there are differences. So I'm trying to get together a grand total of what the accommodation is for parking. Okay.
I understand.
Okay. I don't have any more questions at this time.
May I just ask a question?
Certainly.
Vern, can you address this last question?
We can give you a very clear itemized drawing that accounts for every space.
I appreciate it.
With total clarity.
At this particular body, we did not receive large detail drawings. We have this and there's no numbers on it for the lots. There is specific because you're coming in for a garage and there are specific numbers, but the specific numbers don't add up.
We will recheck those and make sure that they're all accounted for.
Okay.
I also want to clarify, we anticipate, excuse me, I know we're up on 1 car as far as that, but we also anticipate using the ground floor of the west garage to accommodate for the parking.
That wouldn't change the numbers that are expressed
No, I
in these drawings.
understand, but I just want to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have anything else? Member Vransky?
No, I don't have anything else. I know that we have 3 motions to look at, and one of them is concerning height. Nobody's really brought up any discussion about the height. I guess just to clarify that the height variance is the newer garage on the east side adjacent to Halsted and not the west side original garage, which actually maintains its same height from what I can tell. Is that correct?
I'm very sorry.
Does the original garage retain its same height?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay.
In the, and for that number, it was 1,571 in the original count, including.
I'm sorry.
725.
What was that?
What was that number?
1571.
1,500.
1,571.
That includes.
And that was the count,
The surface parking and the.
that's a
700.
total,
That's total.
okay. You have it broken down? Lot and garage?
It's that number minus 725 would be surface, which is.
Okay, it'd be 846 for the lot. I mean, yes, for the lot.
846 surface.
846 for the lot.
846.
Okay. And what is it today? He
Yes,
doesn't have that
that's-
yet?
That's
Okay,
what Claudia's.
okay. Thank you.
Claudia, have you been able to determine that number?
Yeah, so I believe in the old plan, I had 888 surface, and the garage, I believe, was 657. And then in the new plan, I believe it's 735 surface. And then 1,164 garage with a total of 1,899 in the new plan.
1899?
1899.
1899 for the lots.
I'm sorry, total parking.
That's total.
2 parking garages and surface parking, I believe she says 1899.
1899. And one is 623 and one is 608, so that's 1231. So that leaves 668. 668 in the lots?
Yeah, Claudia, our number on what was submitted was 608 in one garage and 623 in another, which is 1231 in both garages,
Okay.
which I
So
think
the
is
surface
different.
parking is 735. The surface parking is 735. If the garage is different, the surface is 735. I may have had a wrong number for the garage.
So that's 1966?
The lots are 735?
I apologize. I'm having difficulty hearing.
Yeah, 735 for the surface.
And the garages are 1231.
Is that correct, Claudia?
That's the number that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get 1966.
I get 1966,
Yeah.
as opposed to 1571 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's an increase of 395 parking stalls.
She just told us the total was 1899.
Sorry?
She just said that the total was 1899.
I was using the wrong number for the parking garages.
1966 is the number. The total.
Not 1899.
She just stated that she gave it.
Yeah, 1231 are the 2 garages and 735 in the lots, total of 1966.
Correct.
And then 2 or 3 years ago, it was 1571, which is an increase of 395
Yes.
spaces. Correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And you have no parking, no accommodation for tour buses,
On site, no.
and you've increased auto by 395. I have a question. You were in the discussion with Member Cap regarding the 24-hour operation and the deliveries. You were quick to make an accommodation that you would restrict the traffic between certain hours.
The truck delivery, yes.
How can you do that?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Okay,
So food
you're
delivery,
not
dinner
operating,
delivery,
are you,
refuse.
the casino? The management of the casino would manage the operation which includes deliveries and takeaway of waste and any other necessary traffic of that nature that would travel behind, how could you restrict? This would be their purview. This would be their area of responsibility. And if you restricted it between 1 and 5 at night, 1 in the morning to 5 at night, just for sake of discussion, I don't know that they would accommodate that. I don't know that they would go along with that.
Well, I guess, first of all, it'd be with signage. And then secondly, if they didn't accommodate that, they would no longer be our vendor. That's a risk they have to take.
But how enforceable are, one other way of doing this is to, it's all contracts. And somebody has to enforce the contract. So you're saying the threat of hammering them for any kind of violation, but people ignore contracts all the time. People ignore laws all the time. So what recourse would the residents have if somebody blatantly and flagrantly ignores this? It's one thing to establish some sort of agreement here and a promise, oh yeah, we'll take care of it, it will be done. And 1 year later, if people are ignoring contracts, what recourse do we as a village on behalf of our residents have for enforcing this on a practical level?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I appreciate your intentions to try to, mitigate. But we're looking for some, I'm going to say idiot-proof ways. We do it once and expect it to work.
Well, from our side, I can't speak for your side as to how you can enforce it. But from our side, we have security on site. We have security patrolling the grounds. We have contracts with vendors. We post signs. If they violate it, they risk no longer being a vendor.
But think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about a rather convoluted and complicated series of contractual enforcement procedures, when a more effective way of mitigating the potential noise would be to have a more effective sound barrier.
We're not arguing the sound barrier. We've identified, I believe tonight, we'll commit to a sound barrier if that's what you're requesting.
Okay.
Member Bransky, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Maureen? Mr. Cap?
Nothing for now.
I have a question about the garages. Since we're all going to be driving electric cars, it sounds like within the next 10 years, have you put any provisions in building your garages to put at least not necessarily the plugs, but the equipment for charging stations in the garages?
That'll be part of the plan. That will be part of the plan.
That will be?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea of how many per garage or?
No, I don't. Again, we're engaging a parking consultant, an expert in the field. I know we'll be doing a high-tech parking where you see the green light or red light, so you can see where a stall is down an aisle. All that will be rolled into this, but I can't tell you specifically. It's 6 charging stations or 100 charging stations.
Okay.
I don't know.
But it is something being considered?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it an accommodation or a fee?
I'm sure it's going to be an accommodation. I'll verify that though.
There's a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly out west, that are getting into that.
What about water retention?
Well, Claudia can, I mean, just quickly, we have a lot of underground vaults to satisfy the required retention. And those are predominantly on the north end of the property.
Okay, now will that be a surface
We have some,
water retention or underground?
it's an underground vault.
So we have some, we have an underground vault that will be picked up. That'll be picking up storm sewer through catch basins just on the parking lot, and then we will also have a few detention basins. One is on the very north side of the site. One on the west is for volume control, and then one that's in the southwest. And all of these will be connected, and all of them all drain to the north.
Okay, so
We're
the
also
one on the
utilizing
north,
permeable pavers for just best management practices. That's all.
okay, the water retention on the north end will be underground?
There's two types. There's one that's going to be underground and one that's going to be surface.
Do you have the original layout?
The underground will be just underneath the parking area there. And then you can see in one of the graphics all the way to the north is blue, and that is where some of the detention will be held.
And then where these apartments are, we have a dry bed detention facility. And then over here, this is the old dry.
Right.
So when we cut through here, we'll be bifurcating and replacing it with what's currently there. So it's a mix between surface and wall.
Can you go back a little bit again? Okay, so this will be the surface.
Surface, underground wall.
Underground. Why not put it all underground?
It's unbelievably expensive.
And then which way does it flow?
Flows to the north. There's a detention facility here, and it's pumped, I understand, underneath 180.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, man.
There were several other things that in your meetings with the village staff had requested. One of them I know from the police department was security cameras and license plate readers. And that will be taken care of?
Yes.
Okay. And you're going to reroute the water main around, was it around the garages? Is that right?
That is correct. That would be the plan.
Okay. So we still have a lot of questions hanging out there. I'm going to go back to the berm and the size of that. You have any other thoughts on that?
Well, my point was to mitigate the sound. And I mean, how do you, in your experience, mitigate sound in situations like this? I'm curious how you do it.
I've never had this situation before. I don't have any experience in that regard.
Does
But
your
again-
team have any opinions on this, or?
Since it only came up this evening, They have no opinion, but we'll have.
Well, it strikes me that the usual approach is either earthen berms, which are far more effective than any hard sound barrier, or a noise wall, tollway grade, something along those lines. So perhaps what Fred is alluding to here is that we're just looking for a little bit more specificity on what you're able to do. I understand the space limitations along the western property line in the village of Homewood. There, for instance, might be an opportunity to do, this would be in the area immediately north of your southwest open detention pond. It might be an area where a tall berm might be able to be accommodated. The height there, like I say, minimum 10 feet, but I readily acknowledge there's sort of a little indentation in the residential property to the west, which would, there's just not the footprint to be able to achieve that. So there, perhaps the hard 12-foot high sound wall might be a little bit, well, it would be the only thing you could do. I would, of course, turn the corner on this, following the service drive around, just to, make the barrier that much more effective. Can't speak for what you would or would not have to do in East Hazel Crest, but that neighborhood consists of taller units. So some of them face to the east, some of them face to the south. So I understand. But that would certainly work.
Well, we'll come back with a proposal with the design professional. I just can't speak to it, I'm sorry.
No, I understand.
And thank you for your consideration. There's no doubt that, with your reputation and whatever, that you're capable of doing this. It's just a matter of whether or not you're willing to. What it comes down to.
Do you know how long it would take to come back with a proposal like that?
Claudia, do you have any feel for engaging someone to look into this and come back with a proposal? Is this something we can do in, I don't know, a week?
When is our next board meeting, Angela?
So the next meeting would be, I believe, on the 24th of February, if we can continue it and come back with these specific answers.
Okay.
And proposal on this.
So February
If that gives you
24th?
enough time. February 24th, does that give?
That would give you enough
I'm
time?
sure.
I
I
think
assume so.
the 24th would be enough
Okay.
to find a proposal.
Okay.
Okay.
2 weeks.
That works.
So then the few things I think that I heard are the noise study and the proposal for the sound barrier, neighborhood flooding, snow, and the traffic on 175th, the three things. that I think,
Forgive me, what was the second?
the flooding, I think, if that would be if you're doing a berm, I think,
Oh,
any impact a
I
berm
understand.
might have on the neighborhood.
Confirming the water control.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
All right.
This is Member Bransky. I got a question for staff. So considering they'd be making these changes, does that mean it has to go back for another site plan review with the site plan review committee?
I can bring it back to site plan. That shouldn't be a problem.
Most of these concerns and questions, as I'm reading the minutes, were brought up in that meeting as well. They just didn't, there's no evidence of, okay, we're gonna get you the answers. And there isn't even a vote noted in the meeting minutes, so, not that they take a vote, but
Right.
there's no indication of, pass, reject, or anything, so, As I'm reading the meeting minutes, I really wasn't sure what to make of it. It just offered, here's some concerns, and then it dead ends. So I
Yes,
point.
yeah, we can
carried those
take it
concerns
back.
here.
We can take that back. We've had ongoing discussions between all departments of staff on some of these issues, and it just hasn't come back together.
And I'm not requesting you take it back. I'm just asking to have to go back, because that could make our time frame change.
It would not change the time frame.
Okay.
Okay, so then we will do a motion to continue this meeting until February 24th, correct?
Do we want to see if there's any comments from anyone in the audience or on Zoom? I see, is that a hand raised? This one? You sure?
So nobody online has any questions?
Can anyone see that? Is it a muted microphone?
You have one email that has a hand raised, I believe.
One hand, yeah, that's what I
Since the beginning of the
thought.
meeting.
There's a hand raised there.
Yeah,
Anyone wants to speak?
Waterford 938. But I
Okay.
think it was raised at the beginning of the meeting, but you should.
Okay, I'm going to allow Waterford to talk if you have any questions. It looks like she's muted now. If anyone else on the webinar has any questions, raise your hand and I can allow talking. Looks like it's unmuted.
Waterford says unmuted.
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Waterford. Let me try this one. Laura,
Yes.
did you have a
Can you
comment
hear
or a
me?
question? Yes.
I don't know if so much a question, but you were talking about the berm. And I am one of those residents directly affected by this protection, quote unquote, the noise thing. Have you looked at the berm that's on Lincoln and Kedzie before you get to Kedzie? Are you familiar with that? It looks like a tall wall. Are any of you familiar with that? Well, just drive by 111th Lincoln Highway before you get to Kedzie under the bridge, okay? On the east side of the bridge, and see how that looks and how that works. It's ugly. I would not like to look out my window and see it, but it was placed there for noise control.
Okay.
And the gentleman, I don't know his name, for bringing that up, because I hadn't considered the noise to that extent. But all the other features you've mentioned, I have been thinking about those myself.
Okay.
Where was the location of that, Angela?
111th and Kedzie.
No, 211.
200?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
211. I'm so used to the city of Chicago and I always, it's 211. Lincoln
Okay,
Highway.
thank you. Thank you.
211th and what?
Kedzie.
East of Kedzie, right where the railroad is, the metro.
Any other question? Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
Any other
Is that
Is that
questions?
Olympia Fields?
right.
Okay.
And she's not happy with that, correct?
She thinks it works, but doesn't like the way it looks.
Well, see, we do contractual guarantees on the maintenance of your landscaping, right?
We also, way back when we first met with the Gardens of Homewood, we also made a commitment. The first 10 years of operation to give $24,000 a year in case they want to do additional landscaping beyond what we were proposing.
That's good to know.
Okay, I don't see anyone else.
Nobody else? Okay. So then we need a motion to continue case number 2203 to our next meeting of February 24th. Who would like to make that motion?
So move.
Member O'Brien,
And I'll second
okay. Member O'Brien is making a motion to continue this case until February 24th. Second by Member Cap. Roll call, please.
Member Alfonso,
Yes,
Member Bransky,
Yes.
Member Cap,
it. Yes.
Member O'Brien,
Yes.
Chairman Sarzega.
Yes.
Okay, I will get you a list of the comments and what we're looking for.
I have one
Thank you all.
question. When would we be able to get some sort of a drawing that shows the parking numbers for the lots in the garages? I'm not pushing, it's just at what,
Because you look at you.
2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks?
We're talking about days. Tomorrow, possible.
Okay,
Okay, so at the next meeting, you will have all that
on
information.
the 24th.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you both very much.
Good night.
Great.
Yes, we need a bathroom break, and I'm gonna let the other applicant in. Okay, anyone needs a bathroom break, feel free. Who do we have here? We have Carmela. Let's bring her in. Greg wants to come in, okay. Anyone else? Robert. Laura was on the other case. All right, I think I let Greg in, but
I think it was a good meeting with them.
Sir?
I think it was a good meeting with them,
Yes,
but
I wish they would have had a few more answers already. but-
yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't have some answers to some of the things are still unresolved.
Yeah.
And I didn't bring up the things with Schaefer. Schaefer has a couple of issues that have to be followed up on, that are major. It's surprising.
okay. Ready? Yeah,
I saw another item on here that's.
I'm gonna,
that is
Go to
the
the
lot
restroom.
consolidation, I'll present that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
Yeah, but I'll get your presentation ready, it's right here. So, want me to share I can share the screen and that way we'll have it up for everyone to look at. If I can figure that out.
Yeah,
right?
don't forget about us players at home.
I won't. Okay, can you see that now, Seth?
Yep,
Okay, perfect.
that's fine.
We're ready for the next one.
Almost ready.
Almost.
I mean, only if it's convenient. Sure.
Anyone up there? Need more water?
Angela, this is Seth. I got a different mic going. Does this sound better?
It sounds a lot
sounds
better.
good, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you'll just be, I'll be running up there. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Seth, that sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I was running off my laptop mic. My webcam mic is more sensitive, I guess, so.
Yeah. Are you cold? Turn the heat on. Is it cold out there? You could turn the heat on a couple minutes. Doesn't have to be.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought, yeah, no, my apology, because Fred was looking for entree. And then, what's his name, Pat Daly was also looking for a question, so I apologize.
Okay. You have everything you need?
Did you get a text or anything?
Not yet. You know, you'd know.
Yeah.
So if you think that I have made a point on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not implying that.
No, I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking about that.
Oh.
Friends are over.
A little feedback for those of you on the dais, you're coming through when you are flipping pens or tapping the counter. Those mics are really sensitive. It's just really loud, just to let you know.
Good to know.
And Mike, when you're speaking to people at the podium,
Yeah.
drag that mic with you a little bit, because you were a little muffled coming over the mic when you turned your head.
Okay. Is that better as well? Is the mask off?
Yeah, but also mic cap when you were looking at the podium.
So I should face the microphone is what you're saying?
Well, you could face the podium, just swing the mic over a little bit more towards you.
Got it. Okay, I know what you're saying. Thank you.
Is he picking on you?
No, he's
trying to make
constructive criticism.
Yeah.
It's all about, like with our petitioner, we're trying to make it a better plan, right? So
Yeah.
he's just trying to compel
Make you a
better
better speaker.
behavior. Yeah. That's what we're all about here.
That's right. Improving.
Okay, so the first is consolidation of lots.
Yes. That is the Village of Homewood's initiation as the property owner at this time. The property is 5 separate lots, and for consistency and for uniform development, we have had a plat of consolidation to prepared to combine those 5 lots, so.
Okay.
Currently, the parcels are non-conforming individually. Together, they would make a conforming lot, so. That's the application.
Okay, so this case was published.
2202, it's a little out of order.
Okay, so case number 2202, consolidation of 5 lots into 1 at 18225 Dukes Highway. Requested by the Village of Homewood, who is the current property owner. And we didn't have to notify people of stuff?
No, it's not a hearing, it just has to be
So you just
recommended.
need a motion to either approve or disapprove?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve case number 2202, consolidation of 5 lots onto 1 lot at 18225 Dixie Highway.
Okay, we have motion by member.
Wait a minute. And in the B1 Central Business Downtown Overlay Zoning District and incorporating the findings of fact into the record. I'd like to amend the findings of fact, or expand them, I should say, because in the materials we received, there was identification of the 5 lots in 2 different ways. On page 3, it identifies them as lots and parcels, but on the very first page, it identifies them by the last 3 digits of the PIN numbers of those lots, which are 010, 037, 038, 041, and 072.
I will add that to the findings.
You just need a second? I'll second.
There we go.
A motion by O'Brien, second by Maureen
Alfonso.
Alfonso. Roll call?
Yes. Member Alfonso,
Yes.
Member Bransky,
Yes.
Member Cap,
Yes.
Chairman Zuniga,
Yes.
Member O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is case number 2205, special use permit for craft brewery, site plan approval and variance from section 12.5 parking lot landscaping at 18225 Dixie, represented by Greg Berman from Crosstown Designs. This was published in the January 24th edition of the Southtown. And we have an application for special use permit dated 12/1/2122. Homewood Brewing Company business plan, plat survey dated 9/27/2018. Architectural site plan dated 1/21/22. Landscape plans dated 1/26/22. And exterior elevations dated 1/28/2022, prepared by the Linden Group. And you, sir, are?
Good evening. My name is Mike Mathis with Linden Group Architects.
Okay, and could you state your address also?
Yes, 10100 Orland Parkway, Suite 110.
Okay. And you swear the testimony you're going to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'd also like to mention, we do have a representative from Crosstown, Greg Berman, and also ownership, I think, represented off-site on screen here. So if there's any questions for either of them, they're here. So I'd like to begin just to give a little bit of an oversight of the site. I think you're all familiar with the old Bogart site on Dixie Highway. You see it here on the screen. A couple of things I want to point out. The site is bordered by Dixie Highway on the west, to the north directly, Mama and Me Restaurant, along with other businesses. The parking lot backs up to, I believe, a daycare play yard in this area. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then to the east, we have residential uses up on this is Olive Road on the
Yes,
sort of the
that's
north
Olive.
corner. That is where our storm connections will be from stormwater design coming off the site. And then we are also located off of Miller Court. Miller Court is Dixie is a dry cleaner, and then there's two residential lots next to that back up to the end of Miller into the residential to the adjacent property. A couple other key features of the existing lot. Of course, Bogart's is gone now. I think if way back, and if you remember, they had their outdoor patio to the rear of the restaurant. Just want to point that out in reference to where we're looking at outdoor dining to try to have some mitigation for that sound to the neighbors. There's also a shared access easement that comes on the north edge of the parcel between Mama and Mia and our site. That's a 10-foot easement on our site, so there's a total of 20 feet that's proposed there as an access easement. This parking lot, this came up during the appearance commission. This is Mama and Mia's parking lot, and our lot is an L-shaped lot. So you'll see on the proposed site plan, which you probably have seen already, that our parking lot extends on this L part of the property. Just a couple reference photos looking south on Dixie Highway, looking north on Dixie Highway. This is the Bogart site here. This is looking along the cleaner down Miller Court, with our site on the left. And then this is a little bit further down the alley. You start to see the residential lot, and then Bogart's the old building, which is now gone. So the proposed development locates a 11,000 square foot footprint that's going to contain a brewery and a full dining establishment. It will have a small basement and an upper floor that will accommodate a private dining room and an upper terrace. We've sited the building toward Dixie Highway with leaving space for outdoor dining that will occur to create some energy on the road. We've pulled that dining off the right-of-way so that we could provide a landscape buffer between the road and the dining. But we did want to define an edge, which I'll show you when you see the architectural. We have a defined edge to that patio dining with a masonry wall enclosure and then some fencing, combination of those two to create that street wall, and then our building is set back. The entrance to the building is proposed on Miller Court. It's right at this little bump out you see. I'm putting my hand over, if you can see that or not. I had a pointer, but I'll just use the hand. I think you can see it. One of the challenges to the site was addressing the entry, how the building addressed Dixie Highway and the parking. We thought that locating the entrance off of Miller Court kind of provided a close connection to Dixie Highway. But the challenge of having parking to the rear, we're drawing people around the building. So that's why we didn't have the entrance off of Dixie Highway. Other site elements, there's a loading dock off the north part of the site. We've extended the brewery part of the building out to create some screening from that loading dock to the nearby residential on Miller Court. There's also a larger trash enclosure here that's created and enclosed with a masonry wall to provide a nice look for that. Flow into parking, you come down Miller Court and we have a one-way parking traffic that comes off the east side. You can see the angular parking and then wraps around and then exits back on the Miller Court on the west drive. The thought was that with this motion travel, we have cars, and at night the headlights would be further away from this residence, which I believe the house is located to the east of this parcel, and I think that's neighbors here, so he probably will speak to concerns he might have. But one thing we wanted to do is have that parking traffic so that it was, as it came out, it was further away from direct access to that residence. We do have an area in the middle here, which we're providing 38 parking spots. The count you see on there is 48 because there's 10 spots in the middle here that we're leaving open for when we do loading of a larger loading vehicle. The idea is that would be done during off hours so that we can capture those 10 spots during peak hours for residents. I didn't mention, I also have our landscape architect here at the meeting remotely, Steve Gregory. So any questions on landscaping, he's happy to answer those questions. We did have several comments from the village going through the review process, and I believe we picked up most of those comments and got the revised plan back to Angela, which is what is here today. And Steve can speak more to those. I think the only thing that we didn't do is we kept some evergreens in that were asked to be removed so that we could have some greenery year round, but Steve can add detail to that.
I do want to comment that the second review was approved by the village.
Great. Just other landscape features, we are locating 3 trees along Dixie Highway in that small landscape buffer to provide some green along the roadway. It also provides some shade for the outdoor dining. We pulled the building off of Miller Court right away so that we can provide landscape plantings, which you see represented on this plan. And towards the back, where we get towards the residential, we have a larger green area here that provides additional screening. I think there's a tree also located in front of the trash enclosure. We provided a preliminary floor plan just to represent the use. What you see in blue is the brewery, which is towards the rear of the property. The green represents the kitchen, and then the dining room to the south and the west. The dining room on the first floor had seating for 126 people. This is a preliminary seat count. That's what you see on the plan today. We have a second level that has a private dining room, which I mentioned right here, and then an upper terrace. There's also a collaboration room, we're calling it. It's a smaller private dining area that's also going to be used for guest brewers as they come and use the brewery. It's sort of a mezzanine level that overlooks the brewery facility. This is the lower level, which is essentially storage and staff break. This gives you a view of the facility off of Dixie Highway. You know, as we look to develop the architecture of the building, we wanted to design something that had a unique image, but also fit well in Homewood. We propose a brick facade around the dining room that's accented with steel. You can see there's a steel detail that goes over the top of the windows. The windows are all black metal with a divided light look, so it sort of gives a industrial warehouse look with the brick facade, kind of like some of the buildings you see in the warehouse districts of Chicago. And then we have a shade canopy that comes off of that and picks up on that steel detailing and provides shade for the outdoor dining. The upper private dining area you see is this box element that comes up that's clad in kind of an aged metal look. It's actually painted metal to look aged. It's made to look like a material called Cor-Ten. But it's got a nice warm color to it, and it's a metal panel that has a reveal in it, so it's kind of like a corrugated panel. You can see we have a second shaded element over the upper terrace. We're proposing signage. Today we're not actually presenting signage specifically because we know we have to come back to the village with the specifics, the specs, and sizes of the proposed signage. But we're proposing a canopy sign similar to what is on LeBlanc. Although this sign here is proposed to be illuminated letters, where I think LeBlanc, the letters are illuminated with a light from the canopy. We also are looking at putting branding on the sort of wall facade of the upper room as it comes up. I'll pull another view up here in a minute. The patio, as I mentioned, has a masonry wall that comes to the street edge, minus the landscape planning area, and then it sort of stops and there's a fence, so it kind of it has an edge, but it's also a fence, so it feels open. The entry off Miller you see here is accented with a curtain wall facade and metal cladding, and we're proposing a blade sign come out that draws people to that entrance down Miller Court. This just gives you a flat elevation of that, what you were just looking at. This is the branding element, which, by the way, this is just a placeholder for the branding. Branding's being developed separately, and the idea is that we would have some branding element proposed on the metal wall that's here. These windows look into that upper dining patio area, and you see this is the screen wall that's a combination of masonry wall and then a timber style open fence. It's basically stacked timbers. Some would look like railroad ties, but in a clean version. Other materials are around the entrance. There's a lighter metal material, so the entrance gets accented. And there's wood accents that are set in the brick at the openings, just in a few spots. You see a representation of that over the door here and over the door here. This is the rear facade that shows the two loading docks, the masonry enclosure around it's a 6-foot fence around the trash enclosure and the gate. And the brewery gets clad in that same painted aged look metal. And these upper clear story windows are a material called Calwall, which is kind of a translucent material. It's not clear glass, it'll be white when it's illuminated inside at night. These are the two other facades. The one on the top is the one facing Miller Court. So it shows you the dining room on the left, the entrance. You see a more wood accent over this window, which as you walk around from the parking lot, you'll be able to see into the brewery. And then on the access easement side, we have a burnished masonry block material. That's the gray, and then the other materials are, it's a little hard to see on screen here, but this is that aged metal. You have a material board here. Be happy to pass that around if anyone's interested. The aged metal's right here, the burnished blocks down there, and I can point those out separately during questions. There's the 4 elevations together. This is the materials represented that you see here. So there's a brick. The idea of the brick was to we wanted to pick a brick that had character and color, so it has a variety of color and texture, but it's also kind of a warm tone. This is a sample of the wood. This is the block. The 2 metal materials and the aged metal here, and then the windows will be a black metal. This is just, additional view of the facade. I think with that, I guess I'll open up to questions.
Okay, Mr. O'Brien, you want to start with questions?
Back on parking, just for, to be consistent. Back in August, there was the building will be 60 feet by 250 with outdoor eating and 44 parking spaces. In December, parking is 50 spaces. The owner would like to increase parking to 60. And in the most recent, it is 38. And tonight you expressed there's 10 there that would be available, that would make 48, but are restricted during certain hours for delivery or something?
Basically, that area would be used during off hours of the restaurant for delivery of our larger delivery vehicles.
Okay. So are we to say there's essentially 48 parking spaces?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
I don't have any other questions at this point.
Okay. Member Bransky?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that you said, your outside, your exterior finishes were meant to kind of capture Homewood, and I would agree with you. I think you did it very well. Looking at the steel and the brick reminds me of any number of bank buildings that would have been built in Homewood in the 70s or 80s. And actually your entryway is going to tie in nicely with the construction going on with the train station. So 2 nice tie-ins to Homewood. I too was also going to ask about clarification with the parking, but Mr. O'Brien beat me to the punch, and that's clarified. I guess the only other concern would be the residents to the south, maybe a little better explanation of what kind of screening is going to be available on that south end. If you could go over that.
Yeah. The landscape plan here. So since the building is located pretty much on the right of way of Miller Court, it goes almost from where we can build on the south to where we can build on the north. The building wall is screening in somewhat, but we have provided a sliver of landscape, which you see that towards the rear of the building grows to be like I think 15 feet wide, and as it rides along the building, I think it varies from 3 to 4 feet. We definitely wanted to have it's more foundation plantings than screening. But in this case, where the trash enclosure is, we do have space to get a tree in there. And then as we go into the parking, we do have a parking island off the end of the parking where we have 2 shade trees. But due to the access, the building being on that Miller Court and then access to the parking being required, we don't actually have a screen wall. But there is screen wall proposed on the east side, where we have a 6-foot fence, solid fence that we're proposing like a Trex material, composite wood. And then you can see there's plantings on the north part of the parcel, and then the aisle of the parking goes closer to the property line as you travel south. And the reason for that is service vehicles coming out for the turning radius need that extra pavement to make the turn.
Okay.
So that gets pinched down a little bit, and that's why you don't see trees along the south portion of the aisle of parking lot as it goes towards Miller Court.
And are those service trucks gonna be coming in then on the north side between you and Mama and me, and then they say come in and then back into the dock?
Yeah, that's the plan, that they would come in off the access, 20-foot access drive and back into the dock, and then they would pull out along Miller Court.
Okay. So the very south edge then of the pavement there on Miller Court, you need every bit of that pavement then?
Yes.
And there was, I believe in the photos you showed us at the beginning, if you could go back to your page where you showed some of the views, yeah. So those fences, those are on the property owners there. So does that strip of landscaping and that fence remain on the, will be on the right side as we're looking at it, the residence side?
Yeah, yes, it would remain.
Okay. And that's the property owners to maintain and do what they will.
Yes.
Okay. So if they wanted to come in and put a taller fence or add more trees, they are free to do that.
Yes.
You need a variance, right, to get a taller fence?
No, the zoning is it's zoned commercial.
Well-
so I'd have to look and see, but yes.
Obviously within zoning limitations, but I mean, my point being is if they wanted to come in and try to put up a taller fence here, this is the resident fence. It's on their side of the property line.
Right.
They could come in and petition to do that if they wanted to.
Yes.
This isn't controlled by the commercial property, is my point.
Right.
I guess that's the clarification I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's my understanding, and Angela is also saying that's true.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. This is my first time seeing this plan, and so far I like what I see. It seems to be reasonably well thought out. Let's see what anybody else has any concerns to bring up. That's all I have at the moment.
All right, thank you. Maureen?
Yeah, it's a beautiful plan. I think it's gonna be a nice addition to the town and the entryway there on Dixie coming into downtown. The capacity for the people, for the upstairs, and outdoor area, how many people do you think would be able to hang out there, maybe?
I'm sorry, I was trying to zoom in here for a second. You have a seat count, I think.
I'm just thinking
So there
about,
were 32 seats in the interior and then 20 seats outside. The occupancy won't be limited to that, so there could be potentially more people there than that. One of the things I did want to mention with regards to the outdoor elements that we were kind of conscious of trying to screen those from the residential areas. One of the reasons why we put the dining towards Dixie Highway, and we also created this, the entranceway this is sort of a two-story volume here that extends and provides a physical barrier between the outdoor area and the residential to the east. So it was just something that we had considered when we were looking at where we would put outdoor spaces for the dining.
and will there be like speakers out there, music?
That's not worked into the plan yet. The dining room will definitely have speakers. I would say that, yeah, the outdoor patio may have some dining ambiance as well. I don't know about the upper terrace. It's something we can willing to talk about. But I would expect that there would be potentially music if there was an event or party going on out there.
And what are the hours of operation of the restaurant?
I'm not sure if they've established hours yet, but we do have the ownership here if either Carmelo or Greg wants to try to answer that question.
This is Greg Berman. Right now, hours of operation for that, I believe, for the outside upper terrace, for music wise, if there was some sort of event, would be to 10:30 or 11. I believe that's what the outdoor time frame was given to Mama Me when they had outdoor music, and it was agreed upon to be shut down around that time. But to that extent, our goal is to be very community oriented and neighborhood feel, and that's something we'd be willing to discuss with the neighbors and with the board and village as to timing for that to be either turned off or lowered to a certain decimal ratio for the sound to be played.
Now, I know you have the parking going down the back side of the building, and it's long and narrow. Will there be some sort of pathway for people to walk? So they're not walking, they're parking their cars down the end of the.
So currently we do have a walk. You can kind of see it on the edge of the trash area. They will get picked up from here. But if you're parking on the back side of the L, you have to make your way through the aisle to get to that. That's about where you can get to the side.
Okay. Well, I think it looks like it's going to be a beautiful project, so thank you.
Thank you. Member Cap?
I would, good evening, good night. I would echo everybody's comments about how well thought out this is. A lot of moving parts, but I have a fair amount of questions, so I'll jump in. Is there any kind of delineation that you're going to have to distinguish between your parking area and Mama Mia's?
I would expect it'll be signage.
Just signage? I mean, especially in situations like this, the inclination might be for people to make that quick left turn into their parking, so. Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm sure you'd have to work out. Have you really done, they have templates to track turning radii for trucks? I'm just looking at your, the configuration of your site, and man, it seems awfully tight to have a big semi-trailer shown in the loading dock. Have you worked that out?
Yeah, so we have run the AutoTurn software on it, and I'd be happy to share that with Angela.
Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, so that you can actually see it. It shows the wheel as, with the offset, so that you can see how it, and that's, I think, part of the example of that we gave it that attention is that fact that we did extend the drive, additional on the south part of this aisle so that the truck could make that turn, and that was based on the AutoTurn that we ran.
Okay.
And that's why this landscape buffer that's on the north side gets eliminated to allow for that.
So your traffic circulation would be the trucks would come in on the easement, the alley between you and Mama Mia's, and then back in like you described, but then leaving, they would make a right turn to go south to Miller Court.
Right.
And those turning movements are, I'm skeptical, but that's okay. So this is a clarification. The variance from the perimeter landscaping is actually the south end of the building along Miller Court.
The variance is related to internal parking lot islands required.
Okay,
and
that's why
what was the percentage change? It was, we reduced it by 50% of the requirement.
Right, yeah, from like 5% to 2.5%.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
But
right.
I just wanted the clarification where that actually occurred?
The boundary is on the southeast side over, because there isn't a that's where the variance is for the landscape area. There isn't required landscaping on the other side. It's zoned commercial and
Sure.
it's across the street, so it doesn't directly abut.
Okay, this is an actual production facility as well. We had a brewery here on Dixie Highway that had I'm gonna say, capacity limitation with the size of their water service that kind of delayed them in moving forward. When you lose momentum on a project like this, it often has fatal consequences. And my point to you is, speaking to the production side of this business, could you maybe have somebody talk about, 50 barrels a day or whatever it is, and what your expected water consumption is with respect to the size of your water service?
Greg Berman, I don't know if Brian's online, but Greg Berman could probably answer those questions. I will say, just related to, I think it was Vice District, perhaps, that you're talking about, is that we are bringing a new water main into the site, so it will. From Dixie.
Okay.
But I believe were they working on an existing water, they were trying to work off of an existing water main in that project, so.
But nevertheless, the hangup necessarily wasn't the physical work to make the connection, to augment the size of the service. It was to get the permit from IDOT.
So we've already started that process.
Okay.
Yeah, our engineers already reached out to IDOT, and we're working on utility easements for the construction of those connections that are going to be made, because it is off of off Dixie, excuse me. The other thing, just speaking to Vice District issues before, if Greg wants to talk about the production process, is that we know that there were some lessons learned about separation of treatment water for having a separation and a grease separation for cooking. So we have kind of got that information from Homewood, and we know what Thorn Creek's going to require. So we're working with Thorn Creek to make sure we're ahead of the ballgame in that regard. And the brew house that's planned for this facility is a 10-barrel system. As far as how much they're going to be producing, Craig, I don't know, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, right now, our consumption estimates is we'll be brewing 3 days a week with a potential for 4, 6 months to a year after we open, to meet up with demand if we're doing any distribution at that point. But right now we're looking at a 3 to 4 day brewing and consumption of water. Like Michael had said, we're working to get the right size water coming into the building to make sure that we can handle that consumption.
Okay. So going back to the truck docks, what you're depicting there, especially in the north bay, is incoming materials or outgoing product?
So right now we're planning for the largest trailer we would expect into the future. So because we are brewing our own product for beer, although we are going to have bringing beer in as well, we're going to bring not just our beer. That's a 50-foot trailer that we put on there. Will we ever end up with a 50-foot trailer doing deliveries? I'm not certain of that. I think that's just sort of what we decided to plan around, so that we make sure we didn't make the mistake of not planning for what might happen. But the restaurant deliveries are expected to be made with smaller delivery trucks. And I don't know, Greg, would you expect on the brewing side that a 50-foot trailer would be something we would see in the near future?
I don't necessarily see that in the near future. I would say it will happen, but I would say we're a year to 2 years down the road before a trailer that size would be needed. most trailers that would be coming through would be box trucks or half-size trailers at this point, much like you would see a Cisco food delivery truck come into a space with a lift gate and deliver.
So you're now talking about over-the-road 53-foot long trailers with a 12-foot cab, total 65 feet. You're talking about local cartage.
That'll be 90%, if not, that'll be pretty much all we see, but we have planned for new radius.
90% local cartage.
Yeah.
Our proposed zoning ordinance, which certainly is not in effect yet, and I'm not trying to hold you to those standards, but it makes the point very clearly about what is known as a site triangle. And that's at an intersection of two streets or a street and a driveway, blah, blah, blah. You have to have essentially a clear view, 25 feet in both directions. And my question to you is both on the, let's call it the alley access on the north and then the Miller Court on the south, will your however you're describing it, that front patio or whatever, how will that, if you could go back maybe to some of your photographs, please.
You want the renderings or the photos?
I think the photo, well, no, I'm sorry, existing photos, but yeah, the renderings probably are better. Like essentially, what I'm trying to, see where you have the car is, would any of that be an impediment? Because again, the height limitation, the driver's height is usually like 3.5 feet off the ground, blah, blah, blah. I'm just concerned.
So we could run the site triangle, we're used to that, and see if there's any reason that we should adjust the location of that corner wall that you see that's right here, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Along the access alley easement side, Mile and Me comes out all the way to, downtown street wall, so.
Right.
That's pretty typical of what you're getting down Dixie with street wall buildings.
I understand.
So, but we are pulling our building back off the street, so that's helping somewhat. But we do also have a patio wall on that side as well, so we can run the triangle with it, offset it. I think it's 21 feet or what it is, and see,
Well, ideally it's 25 feet, but 20 feet, under these conditions. Now, to refer back to, let's call it a circulation pattern, is this intended, the alley on the north, is that intended to be a one-way in, or is that really intended to be dual traffic? Well, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
It's, I'm sure, I think our building is a foot off the access easement, so I'm not sure if Mama Mia is right on it, but it's 10 feet, it's the easement on each side, which would be 20 feet, so whether it's a full 24-foot drive or whether it's.
Well, I'm not,
suggesting. It could accommodate two-way traffic, I believe, but maybe not to ordinance, like probably ordinance is a 24 or is it 22?
24.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's shown here on your site plan that it's going to be both Miller Court in this alley access easement will be two-way.
Yes, that's the intent, because I think for Mama and Me, we needed to provide that.
Of course, but just coming back to the whole idea of the site triangle with your proposed construction.
As it relates to the site triangle, I think it would make sense to pull this wall back to get that site triangle better towards Dixie. We're showing the building 12 feet off, so if that were equal on both sides, it would be 24 feet, which would be by code a 2-foot aisle, two-way aisle, excuse me.
Now, invoking Vice District, they had a similar situation on their north side of their building. And what I liked about that building is they had windows on the corner, so that if you were coming out of that alley, you could, as long as they weren't blocking it in the interior with tables or whatever, you could actually see through the two windows to look at northbound Dixie traffic. I'm not suggesting that here, but I'm just saying that. Yeah, exactly. Your patio could inhibit.
Well, we could consider that, that patio wall in the corner is the section, one of the sections that's open.
Right.
So you can have some.
Or chamfer it, maybe.
Yeah.
One last comment. You alluded to the fact that your stormwater essentially flows to what would be your northeast. And then I'm presuming there's some sort of storm sewer or whatever that takes it over to Olive. I don't know if it's called Olive Park, but boy, that can really flood in very heavy rain. Have you been discussing with our village engineer anything that you might do to, let's say, enhance the stormwater storage? And let me explain. Within the past year, we had a proposal before us to redevelop the southwest corner of Martin and Ridge. It's currently, they didn't get as far as they would have liked last fall, but took a little bit of arm twisting to get them to agree to augment on their site the stormwater storage, either with oversized stormwater pipes, the size of the pipes. You might have an elevation issue. I understand that. We're not the size of this site probably puts you under the requirements for stormwater storage.
Actually, but based on code, we are doing detention. It's required.
Oh, you are? Okay.
So that's going to be an improvement that's not currently there.
And how are you going to do it?
Under the parking.
In the parking lot, oversized pipe or chambers?
I think it'll be probably an oversized pipe, but I'm going to take care of it.
Yeah. Okay. Answers my question. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, actually, when we started the project, we thought we were under the threshold, but
right.
We were clarified by Max.
Okay, well, that's good. Max is a smart guy, so
Yeah, Max.
yeah. Okay, so
It's a smart design, I like it.
yeah.
It would be a welcome addition.
All right, I have a few questions for you. In your parking lot where you've got your trucks parked, are deliveries going to be at certain times during the day? Because my concern is, how are you going to keep people from parking in these spaces if you've got trucks going in there during the day?
So, yeah, we're going to schedule deliveries around the hours of operation, so that we'll try to accommodate that. It's really I'd have to see we could run the box truck. I'm not sure that we need that area as much for the smaller delivery vehicles. But the idea is that we're going to bring deliveries in at off hours, which is pretty typical, I think, for restaurant deliveries. I know, like, for example, Lassen's, their deliveries are coming right in, parking in that parking lot, right? Pretty much cut the parking lot off.
Right.
They do end up being there occasionally on operating hours, but usually when it's not in heavy.
Well, I know where our building is out on Harwood. Ridgewood gets their beer deliveries. They have a semi truck that comes during the day and just parks along the curb. So we got to kind of go around it on Harwood.
What we would have to do is, the only thing that I think would work is we would put signs that restrict the parking during certain hours so that
people don't read signs.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now.
Well, and the benefit is there'd be, if the signs are there, it will be somewhat of a deterrent, especially if there's other spots available, and then if they're on property, we can solicit their, them to move the vehicles, which they will be, but it's parking lots for our facility.
So you think most of the deliveries will be during business hours?
Not during peak business hours, so when we would expect during evening dining, no, during, I would see them potentially
So like
happening.
10, 11 in the morning?
Yeah, before noon.
Sorry, this is Greg Berman, just to speak there, our restaurant deliveries will be in the morning before 10 a.m. And the brewery deliveries, again, will be scheduled for that same time frame in the morning. Our goal is to not have any deliveries in and out once lunchtime, our time around 11 a.m. starts. If the truck is still there at that point, it'll be most likely made to stay until the next morning or until we're able to free space up for it to move. But majority of it, and with agreements we've had with our vendors, will be coming in the morning, and the deliveries will have to be done and delivered before 11 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
I do want to point out too that even without the 10 spaces, we're meeting zoning, even though the zoning provisions are
right
for the downtown district. So we all understand that it's less parking than we're going to need. So
no, but people are going to park in the closest spot.
Yeah.
That's why I was concerned is how are you going to prevent people from parking right here if you're going to have trucks coming in at the same time? They didn't mention the hours of operation, correct?
Greg, did you say hours of operation? We talked about as far as music,
yeah.
It's restricted by zoning code, I think. And I think it's also, we didn't mention by this weekend, Friday, Saturday, so only two, right? There's some limitation to the days.
Yeah.
But I think the hours would be similar to, other restaurants and breweries in town.
Okay. My other concern is your main entrance is going to be on Miller Court, right?
Right.
So if I'm parked over here in your lot, at the far, that would be the north side of the lot, I have to come all the way around this way to get to the front door.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have any access on the north side of the building?
So we did look at that. The problem is with having the kitchen and the brewery facility, to the north and to the rear of the property, it sort of cuts off access from the north for patrons. Because the service to the kitchen comes through a hallway that's on the north, runs along the north wall. That's essentially the problem, is because of the brewery production facility. This corner is basically a loading room that feeds into the brewery on this side, into the kitchen on that side.
Yeah, because the customer's biggest complaint is going to be they have to walk all the way around the building to get to the main entrance. So there's no place in the back to put in an entrance or an exit.
There isn't.
Okay. All right. Just letting you know, you're going to have a lot of complaints about how far people have to walk. Trust me. Because our building on Harwood, main entrance is in the middle of the building. And everybody would complain, well, why isn't it facing the parking lot? Which was another 50 feet, maybe 60 feet.
Well, we're hoping that, like the Fifth Quarter or other establishments in the downtown district where their parking isn't necessarily super convenient, there's on-street parking, and the idea that people kind of come for the experience of being in the downtown, and they know that they're going to walk a little bit from the.
Well, and it's a beautiful looking building. I mean, you guys put a lot of work into your building, and and into all your landscaping. It's a classy looking building. I think those are the only questions I had right now. Anybody else have anything else they would like to bring up?
Well, one more question. Timeline, construction, what are your, what do you envision?
Well, Carmela's online, she's got one vision, so it's as fast as possible. We're getting close. Yeah, she's chuckling. I don't want her to say the date because then I'll be held to it. Basically, we're trying to get engineering and drawings done. There's not much holding us back. This is one step in the process, and engineering's moving forward. I mentioned that we're already talking to IDOT on utilities. Yeah, it's I think spring start would be what we're hoping for. Opening, I think they did talk about doing a pretty slow open when they get done, because I think they want to get their product dialed in. I know I've heard them say that. And Carmela, do you want to add anything?
Basically, you touched it. We're looking to break ground this spring and hopefully be operating by next summer or fall.
23.
23, yes.
Okay. All right. Somebody in the audience? Yes.
My name's Marty Will. I live on 1947 North Court. That would be this property here.
Okay.
First, I want to say, I'm sure both patrons of these lots would be interested in listening to a parking remedy. That might help out if they're interested. But the one, I have 4 small kids. The oldest kid is 12, and my youngest is 7. I would like a guardrail along the property line. And I would be willing to work, like give part of the my easement to have that guardrail installed. I just don't want anybody, let's not, get confused. This is a brewery. So I just don't want anyone coming through here and driving through this fence. You know what I mean? So I bought the house when Bogarts was operational, so I understood that what I was getting into. The beer garden faced my property. Their patio is gonna face our property. So, I want the town, I like the building too, it's a great design. And I'm in construction, so this all makes sense to me. So, I want the downtown area to flourish as well. So I'm not looking to start a fight or nothing like that. But I would like to try to, protect my family as much as possible by just adding a guardrail in this easement, just so that, no one could drive through the fence and into the house. So, that's that was one of my main questions, or not questions, but comments.
Now, are there more than one houses along Miller on your side there?
There's 2.
Oh, he's got the other, okay.
This property right here, or
Right.
owns this property, right?
Yeah, but I'm Ronald Banks, and I've owned it for 30 years, so I will be right here. And I was the kind of both guys, we had Bill Fiore was there for. And what concerns me, now this Miller Court is not that wide. I think you said 24 feet, now we got traffic going both ways. It's not that wide, traffic going both ways, but when we would have the trucks, that truck would hit this fence. Those trucks have a problem with that truck. There is no question about it. This is before Martin moved there. There was another resident who lived there. He used to have a fit, and he moved out. He put some concrete pillars here, but those trucks would hit that fence, and it was very difficult for them to make that turn. Now, before, obviously, they would go through. They would come through. The people were coming off the Dixie Highway, but now you use the Miller Court. I understand what's going on with the buildings, but that's gonna be a lot of traffic on that little small little street, particularly with everybody coming through, It has to come past both of our homes, and I guess you put like a cul-de-sac or a turnaround in front of my house, I'm not certain what this means. But every car, basically, or customer that's coming through, is coming down that street now. Whereas before, they always came off of 50 Highway into the lot, because the front part of the lot used to be the front this way, not toward our house. And that beer garden, the guy I bought the house from was Mike Moxley. Now, his biggest complaint was they had a beer garden with Bill Fiore. He used to go to 12 o'clock at night. And he was very, very upset because there's a lot, but there's garbage. You get people who drink quite a bit. So 11 or 12 o'clock at night, they throw the beer cans, and I would come out there every day cleaning up the beer cans. But it was always a very quiet street. Now, the difference for me, as opposed to Martin, is I bought that house 30 years ago. I live in Boston. I bought that house, I use it as a process. I have a sales agency. There were 4 of us that had gone to the village before I bought it, tell them what I did. They were very receptive and happy because they says, Mike Moxley used to have a problem all the time because of the beer garden at 12 o'clock. I said, well, we close at 6 o'clock, I'm going anyway. But it does concern me, to be honest with you, that traffic that's going to come down that small little court. And I know those trucks have a very, very difficult time getting that truck. There's no question about it. And they hit that fence, Martin, several times. Because the guy who lived there before, he thought it was my landscape. I don't know, that's the beer trucks, or beverage trucks. That's the problem that I have. I will probably end up selling down the road anyway, because I'm retired, I'm not really using the spot that much. I'm a little concerned that will enhance the value of the property, people, kids. Well, I'm not certain, but I mean, I know I've got to live with that. But I do look at Martin, who's been there maybe 10 years, with 4 kids, and like Martin said, he's right here, his driveway comes in right here, and his kids out there. And when I come down that street, I'm always very slow, intentionally slow, because I know his kids are there. And Martin put a little basketball hoop up out there. None was gonna happen with every car coming down that street. That does concern me. And Martin's asking for a barrier, and I'm just wondering about that turnaround. I'm not certain how that works.
So, the turnaround, what you see is with the circle is just the right of way that Martin has. The paving that we're showing is actually this darker line that comes, and then it comes into our lot from there. So Martin, the current end of Miller Court is this line here. So Miller Court does get extended to the end of the right of way and then feed into the proposed parking lot. But we're not saying that we need this bell shape of that. I guess we'll have to get into the details on the engineering of how Miller Court gets improved. I know we've talked to Homewood a little bit about that, because I think it does need to be improved to accommodate this development. And so we're in discussions with Homewood about that.
And then the other thing, I'm certain that the street is going to be torn up.
Miller Court?
Miller Court, I think
It'll
I
have
said
to be
Martin, I
redone.
meant to say
How
Miller.
will we access the property? If we, so our, why do I have to come around with the question? Is your access coming this way? How will we get to move it?
Yeah, it would be handled like if you were doing an improvement project on any residential street, they'll have to work around access for you. If there's a time period where they reroute you around, I guess it's something that could be talked about and figured out as part of the project.
Okay.
I think they would try to maintain access for those driveways.
I think it would be a welcome addition. That would give them, Miller Court is a small street. It's a lot of people think it's an alley, but there is a street. As long as, like Martin says, I think there should be some kind of protective barrier there. And particularly when you have people drinking in the beer garden or whatever they're calling up there. Like you said, driving through that fence. I think that's a possibility.
Is that something you would consider putting up some sort of a barrier?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't work with, you know, I know, you know, you need as much space in the street as possible, so if you need a little part of my easement with the guardrail, and I'm willing to do that.
Or even, you know, how they did in our retail establishments, they have the poles, they need to have poles going at that. You know, it's very good, it's got a very good, what you said was very sight-like. When you're coming out of North Fork, if I'm going south, that's the Homewood Cleaners.
Yeah.
That is a very, just what you said, it's very different, that's what makes me nervous now. So it's not much traffic now, but if I'm coming out of North Fork and I'm going home, it is very difficult to see where I'm at home right Cleaners. And now with this on that side, you have reduced that side, unless you push it back on both sides now. And you have a very good point that you made. Because it's hard right now, when I make that for the south, for home, when I come out of there, that sideline is cut off.
Well, thank you, but he did, Mike did agree to make an adjustment or at least look into that. Both
Yeah, you know,
Valley on the north and Miller Court on the drive on the south.
yeah, and I think, so that looks like the corner of Mile on me, right? So in this, the current patio is 25 feet wide, where, you know, we might be able to take a couple feet out of that as well to help. It looks like we're actually out in front of the dry cleaner, so if that turns tough, you know, we're not necessarily helping it based on what we're showing.
Yeah. But even like I'm suggesting, you can chamfer it.
Yeah. Or pull it back.
Like,
yeah, it's 12-foot setback, which will help. Yeah, like that, I guess that's, Angela makes a good point. Right now, the dry cleaner is right on the property line, right? Our corner is 12 feet off the property line, so that makes a big difference.
Okay. Is there anybody online that has a question, do you know?
I see that. Let me take a look. I'll get this back. Oh, I think I have to stop sharing, don't I? There we go. Okay. If anyone online has a question, if you could just raise your hand. Just see. I don't see anything.
Nothing?
No, no
Okay.
questions.
Member Bransky, you have any other comments before we try and wrap it up here?
No, the two gentlemen with the property adjacent, those are very good concerns. I don't know if we necessarily need to work those into the motions, but make sure that they're noted in the minutes and that there's something that will be discussed in front of the appropriate, you know, board or committee to take those concerns up. So
Yes, they will be.
process.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Surziga, with all due respect about your comment about the walk from the far end of the parking lot to the entry, don't forget, most people will walk quite a distance for a good beer.
Notation taken on that, okay. Anybody else on the board have anything else? Gentlemen in the audience, anything else?
Like the board, I've been with everything now 35 years. Like I said, it's home with 30. You do a wonderful job here, very, very proud of the community, keeping businesses going. I bought the house in Homewood before when the recession hit, and I bought the house in Homewood, and I fixed it once, and I sold them, and it's a wonderful place to live and raise a family, and I just want to applaud you people, or you guys, and yeah, you do a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 3 different motions to make.
Oh, yeah, you've got it written down there.
We have, yes, we have 3.
We have a site plan approval for construction of a restaurant and craft brewery at 18225 Dixie. So who would like to take on that one?
Well, if I could ask a question, if this is the site plan approval, would this be the appropriate place to amend it to reflect the sightline concerns and the barrier along the south side of?
Yes, I think it would, because especially the barrier, the street improvements will be worked on with staff of Public Works. So yes, we can include that as part of the site plan approval, the consideration of the barrier.
Did you want to spell them out, or?
Oh, I could, I don't have any paper in front of me.
No. You gotta make sure they're in the right order.
Yeah, so, this is the special use. No, this is the special use. Wouldn't we do that one first anyway?
Is this it? Can we set plan?
Yeah, we could do special use. We would probably want to do special use first.
Yeah, so I'll.
You can
jump
do
in
that
on
one first.
That's easy.
That's
So,
easy.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for approval of case 2205, the special use permit for the craft brewery at 18225 Dixie Highway in our B1 Central Business District, the Downtown Overlay District. And does the special use have any findings of fact?
It does.
With the findings of fact included in that? That's the easy one.
Okay, we have a motion by member Cap. Second O'Brien. Roll call, please.
Member Alfonso?
Yes.
Member Bransky?
Yes.
Member Cap?
Yes.
Member O'Brien? This is for the special
I have
use.
a question.
Yes.
It's a special use permit for craft brewery, but everything is discussed as Homewood Brewing Company. Should we say Homewood Brewing Company instead of craft brewery?
The craft brewery is the use that requires a special use, so that's Homewood Brewing Company as defined in the zoning code is a craft brewery.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to tie it to a particular name.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now we need a site plan for construction of a restaurant and craft brewery.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion regarding case 2205, site plan approval for a craft brewery at 18225 Dixie Highway in the B1 Central Business District, the Downtown Overlay District, including the findings of fact with that, but also including the recommendations that the site triangles at the northerly entrance aisle and the southerly entrance along Miller Court be mitigated, and also that the residential properties on the south side of Miller Court will be protected by a vehicular barrier at the petitioner's expense.
Okay,
I'll second that.
you'll second that, okay? Motion by Cap, second by O'Brien. Roll call?
Member Alfonso?
Yep.
Member Baranski?
Yes.
Member Cap?
Yes.
Member O'Brien?
Yes.
Chairman Tarzega?
Yes. Okay, next we need a recommend approval of a variation from section 12.5 parking lot landscaping at 18225 Dixon.
Go ahead.
I need paper in front of you.
Parking in your bag here.
One more, I need
Here.
paper. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion for approval of a variance to, excuse me, a variation from section 12.5 of the parking lot landscaping on the application by Greg Berman, Crosstown Design LLC in the B1 Central Business District Downtown Overlay Zoning District for the property at 18225 Dixie Highway, incorporating the findings of fact into this record.
Second.
All right, so a motion by member Cap, second by member O'Brien. Roll call?
Member Alfonso?
Yes.
Member Baranski?
Yes.
Member Cap?
Yes.
Member O'Brien?
Yes.
Chairman Tarzega?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. Anything else?
Well, the third case will be continued.
Right, first case is being continued.
Yeah, so that will not be heard tonight.
Okay.
And that's
Thank
all.
you all. I'll make a motion for
Thank
adjournment.
you.
So moved.
Second.
Cap and O'Brien.
All right.
All
You're a
right.
good team tonight.
I have never, ever, ever, ever made a motion. I always second them.
Good
Well, you
night,
did good.
everyone.
You did a good job.
Glad to see it.
Does that go?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone be careful driving